Happy New Year! Welcome to Reconstructing the World with this guy, most sustainable architect in the world. Go. Yeah.
Happy New Year! We're back.
That went well. That was really good. Let's not do that again.
No.
That was really good. So, Anders,
Yes.
end of the year, new year has gone. You're a totally changed person,
Very much so.
very much new, all the way. So, and in this episode of Reconstructing the World,
All
with
in
the
black.
most sustainable architect in the world, Anders Lendager, we're going to talk about trends for 2025.
Oh,
What is out there? What is moving? What is, blah, blah, blah.
what is the hardest thing?
Okay, so what is one of the things that is going to happen in 2025, you think? What is the breakthrough kind of building way?
If we should start a little bit soft of a kind of a trend that's been on its way for a while now.
Yeah.
For sure, the approach to the building industry saying not build anything at all, which is for sure the most sustainable thing, is to not do anything. It's also more sustainable not to breathe, so we don't exhaust any CO2. But that's then
that's going to be a
pretty
big
quickly.
trend.
It's probably not that.
Not
trendy.
building at all.
No, but not building at all. And I can see that with all the projects that we get into to our office now. It's gone from a few years back, we only had basically new build projects, and now it's almost only existing buildings that needs to be transformed as little as possible. And it's gone from being buildings where you demolish a little bit and you use that to transform the existing building or build something around it or on it.
Yeah.
And now it's almost
A lot of this going on.
a lot of this going on, and now it's almost becoming don't do anything at all.
Have you been on some sort of magic course where like, hey, you're gonna... So what you're
I'm
saying...
not gonna dance.
No. So what you're saying is like,
Magic hands.
like with the project you have in Høje Taastrup,
Yeah.
the big conversion of this town hall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our kind of I think right now one of the most interesting transformation projects we have. It's an old town hall.
Yeah.
And just show the image. And the interesting part was that the local plan was actually finished and accepted, where the client was allowed to demolish the whole site and build new buildings. And
Then you came.
And then I came in.
Like he did before.
Like with a cape on, flying in and saying, stop. And unfortunately...
I love this new season of the show where you are definitely going to act more. So the Høje Taastrup building, you came in there, you suggested that this should be a transformation project instead of going that way. And they actually went all the way now. And we're hopefully going to follow that building throughout the year, right?
Yeah.
But you also have many more other projects of that coming in, right?
Yeah.
Can you maybe, shed a little light on something?
There's a gas factory, actually. And the interesting thing here is that the client is really saying, don't touch anything. He wants the area to be as it is, but transformed anyways. And what does that mean? How can you kind of update the buildings? And that's actually the dilemma that we are in, looking at like all cities around the world, and the dilemma of how can we do almost nothing, but still lead them into both kind of an update on energy, update on kind of a daylight, infrastructure, accessibility, all these things, when it's actually old factories, or that they've been having an industrial purpose, but they are now in the middle of the city. And then so there's these transformations, and then there's also, of course, also buildings that are office buildings or housing that needs to be optimized. And in that sense, there's a lot about looking about how we use square meters, living smaller, having smaller offices, working at home.
Is it housing or business?
Both.
All right.
It's going to be office. It's going to be housing. It's going to be ateliers, creative housing, living, all these things. Restaurants, music place. It's going to be super cool.
So that is one thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what more do you have in the pipeline
I think that's it.
that you can share, right?
No.
You have more coming in.
We have more projects.
No, you're actually becoming really popular, right? Be frank, just be American here, please.
It's probably because of this program.
No.
So it's just no. I think
it's because of trade.
I think it's because we finalized the high rise, but it's also because that I'm happy to say that the industry, like the building sector, are taking sustainability more and more seriously. And so there are also more and more projects. So when we started 14, 15 years ago, there was no clients asking for these types of sustainable developments. And now they actually need to do it, which means that the amount of buildings that needs to have this agenda are more and more. And therefore we're also getting more projects. So the complexity and also the amount of these projects, both transformations and also new build projects, are getting more and more, and we are growing.
So that's a trend.
That's a trend.
2025 trend where you have been building up to this, and now the dam has been broken. Now it's coming, the flood.
Yeah.
And you see this tendency in not only your company, but in many. This is something that is really coming.
The positive thing is that it's coming, and it also I can see that a trend is maybe also that the kind of more political part of it, and also reporting, on ESGs, reporting on your sustainability strategies for like the big corporations is actually quite serious. And even though it's very new and they don't quite know to react it, they're also afraid of not reacting to it and what limits that will bring them, or that the other companies, their competitors that are actually taking it seriously are getting ahead. So it is starting to become kind of competition component.
It's a sustainable race.
Where the green investment is better than the normal investment. And I think that's where this starts to accelerate. So for the 2025, one of the trends I'm hoping to see more of is this acceleration in the sustainable projects, not only because it's good for the world, which is why we are here, but also because that we can see that the world that has been stopping these developments are starting to see this as a necessary green positive thing to accelerate more projects. So I hope for that.
And we are actually planning to do a really boring program, because there's one part to say thank you here, and that is EU.
Yes.
The EU has put in these incentives and these directions, saying that directives, I think it's called, saying that this has to be. There needs to be what you call scope 1, 2, and 3. And so we are going to do a super boring program, which is actually why things are getting greener. And now moving on, I guess, to another trend.
Another trend, and I think we'll come back to papyrus, but what this is saying is this is from EU, Ursula von der Leyen, this is her script. I think that we're going to see a lot more crossovers of industries where their waste fractions becomes part of a product or a product in another industry.
Yeah.
And so you can say we have a lot of food waste around us. It doesn't look like food waste, but all these now this is actually hemp, but bioorganic materials, and especially
there was something here, right?
This is different kind of plastic look-alike or tiles made out of seashells, and
so this is seashell mixed with some kind of.
There is 40%. 30% bioplastic in it, but there's a lot of other things. But my point here is that I think a trend of this, seeing waste fractions becoming products more and more, is something really interesting, and that they, on a technological side, will be absorbed by 3D printing on large scale.
Yeah.
It will be kind of this low-tech meets high-tech. And I think we've been having high-tech for a while as a a trend, but also merging that together with sustainable materials and waste fractions from other industries is something that's going to be the new thing that we're going to see more and more projects with.
So basically what this is about is taking waste and taking material that we right now is discarding and make it and it looks like that there's a lot of potential for this in surface material. Like it looks like when I look at this, if you had like this would be amazing as a countertop in a kitchen, right? It was like, what the fuck, right? It would be amazing.
Not in my kitchen for sure.
In my kitchen, I would love it.
Looks like shit.
This looks amazing as a countertop.
Amazing, yeah.
Okay, this, would you like this as a countertop? No.
No.
This?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, Mr. Clean Shit. But I think it's
so I think that's one of the things that we're going to see. We've seen a lot of these new products coming out, and I hope in 2025 we are going to see more of these materials actually get funding so they start to scale. So a lot of these are startup companies, and I really hope that 2025 and 2026 is going to show that some of these actually survives as real products and real materials that starts to be scaled, so that we can see them in buildings and in designs all over the place. And that's really one of the breaking points now.
This looks totally like marble.
Yeah.
And it's not plastic. It's I think it's eggshells or something.
Eggshells. Yeah, that's true. This one is really nice. And then this is actually clay, but I wanted to show some earth ramp material, and I think we have that up there, right?
Should I take it down?
Yeah.
I guess it's this one, right?
Yeah.
Don't drop it in my face.
Drop it.
I said to myself. Like this, right?
Yes.
And this is actually from our program?
It's from our program. It's the project that we are doing now called Your Earth, where we are hoping to earth ram 9 floors. You just hold that. It's not that heavy. So you know the problem for the building is that it's super heavy. But the trends that I'm also thinking that we're going to see a lot more of here in 2025 is these type of more, you can say, cultural and historical ways of building, because it's not new to build with clay. It's not new to build with seaweed or different types of biomaterials. But what is new is to get it into a modern building context where we are building bigger, higher, more complex building, but where this is implemented together with, the right insulation values, ventilation systems, and so on, where it all of a sudden becomes a new organism that needs to work together, which is super interesting. And there's a lot to learn. And again, scaling these materials is kind of the key, because it's all new and the building sector is extremely conservative. So just to imagine to build with dirt, mushroom, mycelium.
That's fungus, right?
Mycelium, and with seaweed.
So you take wood scraps or something like that, and then you
and then you mix it, and then it grows together. That's at least how I remember it. A little bit difficult to control, but with a huge potential. Seen it many times actually as acoustic material and packaging and so on. It can be many things. But the interesting part here is, of course, on the whole, and I think that's one thing where the last kind of trend maybe to talk about.
Yeah.
That you also have an opinion about. Because we had the discussion together with Katarina from Bluma Lehmann about forest and wood and biodiversity. Yeah. And how do you feel about this kind of the fact that, if we want to go from concrete wood to bio-based materials or kind of wood materials, then we need to harvest it.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Because, it's a problem that we harvest the trees. But again, so...
I think the discussion, and we're also coming back in 2025 with this, we're going to do a for real 2-3 episode about forest with people who actually know about the dilemma.
Yeah.
And we're also going to talk with people who knows how it could be solved in a good way, and we're also going to have people on saying, yeah, it's not sustainable doing this.
Different opinions.
The thing is, you need both. You both need production forest and you need wild forest for biodiversity. And there is also ways where you can have some biodiversities in production forest, but it's not, if you want, it's nearly the same as with agriculture, and that you need to produce food, but you need mainly to produce food for humans, meaning that you need plant-based food for humans, and then you can have areas for wild nature.
Yeah.
And those two can be separated. And so you have areas where you're like, okay, here we produce food, here you have wild forest. There's also a lot of discussion about how to do that. But of course we can solve it. So I'm not against the wood thing. I'm against that we don't have a plan for it.
Yeah.
That's, I think, is.
But what about the three parties? So here in Denmark, now they kind of accepted or agreed that we need to plant 390,000 acres. There's a lot of debate about this Green Deal with that we did with the agriculture organizations. Some people think it's way too little, and some think it's enough. I'm on the side saying that we got all the nature part of it. We are actually going to see wild forests or wild nature.
We're going to see a development in Denmark where the whole landscape is going to change. And I want to say that this is a deal that's the first of its kind in a massive way in the world compared to other countries' agriculture. It's also that because we are also one of the countries in the world with least wild nature.
Yeah, it's super embarrassing.
It's super embarrassing. I think we have under 2% wild forest and wild nature.
And it's one of the lowest percentages in the world.
It is actually. I think it is
second lowest.
I think it's the second or most lowest in the world.
So only Monte Carlo, or
Yeah, it's probably. And I think you're right. So I think what we're going to see also a trend is that nature and biodiversity is only going to be even more prominent. We're going to see tons of change in this, and that will of course have a somewhat like take Sweden. You think of Sweden like a fantastic green country, right? But it's nearly all plantation forest. So even
it's industrial. All the nature.
Nearly every forest in Sweden is industrialized, meaning that they have not a lot of wild forest. They have tons of trees, but they're very close together, and that's meaning that Sweden, in these climate changes, are facing, wild forest fires in a way they've never seen before, and then the wind comes in, swoop it all over, and you have forest that goes down. So this is a discussion everybody needs to take. And that will be one of my predictions for 2025, that the nature part is going to be discussed even more. And that is going to come into your area a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to see that, and this always happens, and it's really a little bit regrettable that everyone who wants to see this positive change, that are fighting for climate activists and are really engaged in these agendas, both on biodiversity, it can be on resources and so on. And when something like this comes up, they often start to argue really intensely and kind of try to erupt the foundation that one is saying, and kind of basically making the arguments being unclear. And with this discussion, for instance, what I think is so crazy is that this is, instead of producing food for
humans,
animals, and animals for humans, and on the idea of producing wood for building materials, it is, instead of super intense production of cement, steel, all these super intense productions that we need to reduce. to barely minimum. And so I think there is, I hope that in this discussion, we're not kind of making speed bumps for ourselves, kind of getting ahead of that and talking about what is the most real wild nature and focusing on the extreme last 5% and not seeing kind of keeping the eye on the ball on the fact that we are going from having, almost only 2% to a totally different size of nature. And in that, it's just super important to remember what was there before and where we're going.
And all of this time, I was trying to somehow make a joke within your speak and my speak, and I couldn't get it in, because you're completely right. So these are the trends, and it's also this dialogue trend that we're going to do in 2025, that we are not going to see the world in black and white.
No.
We are sustainable to the bone, but there is a transition period in this sustainability, meaning that we need to discuss that, now you have been a part of trying to get the builders, the clients, to try and see how we can build in a new way. And now this way needs to be developed. And we will need to do it in a way where, of course, you'll make mistakes, but you need to discuss the mistakes. So not in a black and white way, but more in that was a mistake. Yeah. Now let's do it different next time. Yeah. So that's our trend for 2025.
And the last thing that is important, last thing, we would actually love that you guys out there would come with suggestions for different episodes.
Great.
Or people you think we should talk to, materials that you've heard about that you think is super interesting that we should go and meet, all projects. So, please engage with this, because we really want to meet these people and introduce our platform to them and to you guys. Yeah. So we think that in 2025, now that we've grown from nothing to, a decent size, then I think that we can use this to other that needs to talk about what they're doing as well.
Yes.
So please help us.